Watch this video to find out why hibiscus love to get cozy. For the best tips to grow your container gardens, make sure you subscribe to my channel and click the little bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video every week. Now let's talk about 7 tips that you can learn so you can grow hibiscus in your container gardens. Today, we're going to talk about growing a tropical hibiscus. Tip number 1, select the right hibiscus for your planting zone. See, I live in zone 10A down here in Southwest Florida, so I chose a tropical hibiscus to grow because we don't have extremes in our temperatures during the winter like many of you. See, hibiscus don't like it when it gets below 50 degrees in the winter, so you definitely want to bring them in if your climate gets below 50 degrees, suggested 55 degrees. What I recently learned is they don't like wind either. You know, we just had Hurricane Tropical Storm Eta pass by. Bye-bye. They don't like wind. We had a lot of wind with Hurricane Eta. So what I did is I brought my hibiscus inside during the storm, and they're fine and preserved and no wind damage. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, sunlight or light. Hibiscus love a lot of light. They want at least 6 hours of full sunlight a day, but there's a little bitty trick to all of that. Now, during the hot part of the year, it's quite interesting that even though they're a tropical plant, they really don't like it above 85 degrees. So when we're in our summer months here in Southwest Florida, we get into the 90s, kind of creep up towards the 100-degree mark. I'll make sure that they get some afternoon shade. If you grow your tropical hibiscus inside, make sure you're giving it plenty of light so that it can continue to flourish during the winter. Tip number 3, hibiscus love to be cozy. Does that mean I'm going to wrap them in a blanket? No. It's all about choosing the right container for your hibiscus. See, if they have a plant in the pot that's about this big, they don't want to be put in a container that's 10 times bigger than they are. They will feel lost. They won't like it, and they won't bloom. So choosing the right container is so important. You want to make sure that you get one that's wide versus more deep. And you don't want it more than twice the size of the root ball in the container that you already have when you're choosing the container. I was so glad to learn this tip because I have these hibiscus plants that I'll soon be repotting, and it's going to make a difference on how the containers that I choose. Tip number 4, watering your hibiscus is so important, especially when they're in bloom. They're going to use a lot more water and need water in their container. But there's a trick, don't water them too much. So now we're going to be moving away from our rainy season, hopefully, in Southwest Florida. And that means we're going to have drier weather, so I won't need to water as often. You don't want to overwater because the plants will sit in soggy roots and they will damp out and it'll kill your plant. But during the season when it's super, super hot, like we just talked about, I'll be needing to water them more often. You know how I test? I just take my finger and I poke it down in the pot about 1 inch. If it feels dry up to my knuckle, then I know it's time to water my hibiscus. Tip number 5, pests. Oh man, down here in Southwest Florida, y'all, pests are a thing. See, I am from the Midwest, and I used to garden all the time in the Midwest. And even though I don't really like it when it gets cold, I'm certainly appreciating the cold weather right now because it gets rid of a lot of the bugs. Down here, we don't get frost. So there are bugs upon bugs upon bugs upon bugs. You know what kind of pests like to eat on your hibiscus? Aphids and spider mites and white flies. Not to mention scale and mealybugs. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go the organic pesticide way, their way to go. That's a lot better for the earth and a lot better for you, so you're not getting those chemicals inside your body through your plant, which can happen if you're eating those vegetables especially. But I like to do that even for my hibiscus plants. So there are insecticidal soaps, and there are oils like neem extract. I have some of that mixed up. You want to be really careful with that, and I would start out with a lighter dose than they recommend on the label of the neem oil and the soap. Just start out lower than they recommend, because even some of those can kind of shock your plants and be a little bit too harsh. Some gardeners just like to go wash off the leaves of their plants to help keep the bugs washed off. So far, I'm not seeing a lot of pest problems with my hibiscus, but you can tell I'm going to be constantly on guard. Tip number 6, you're going to need to fertilize these beautiful baby hibiscus, because that will encourage them to keep blooming. Now you're going to want to do this in the morning, and that's a cooler time of the day. It's a good time for pest treatment as well before the hot sun comes out. And there's a couple types. You can have a powder that's mixed in with water, or you can have little pellets that are like a slow release that you mix into the soil maybe once a month. The water treatment, you can do that more often. If you don't mix it up as strong as they recommend on the label, a little bit weaker solution, you can use that in your regular watering cycle. Hibiscus want a fertilizer that is high in nitrogen, medium to high in nitrogen, lower in phosphorus, and they also want a lot of potassium, otherwise known potash. That's a good mixture. Look for that type of a fertilizer mix that are specially formulated for hibiscus at your local nursery, so that you have the very best care for your plants. Now, as we move into winter and I go through my blooming cycle and my plants start to cycle down and rest, then you won't be fertilizing. Then you're just going to let your plants get the regrowth, and that's going to be going into our next and final tip, which is talking about deadheading and pruning. Tip number 7, our final tip, deadheading and pruning. Deadheading, what is that? Deadheading means you just snip off the old blooms after they're done blooming. You don't want to let them sit there too long, because we don't want seeds forming. This will help keep the energy back in the plant where it belongs. Now make sure you throw those blooms away, after the ones that you've cut off, so that you don't have any pests and diseases and all that around your plant. Okay, what's pruning? Pruning just means you're going to give your plant a giant haircut. See, plants and trees, that's why you see little twigs and branches drop from the trees, because they have to have a new haircut. We're going to do the same thing with our hibiscus plant. Now you've got to be really careful with this. You don't want to cut too much off, only maybe about 1/3 off the round, all the branches off the top. You're only going to do this when the plant has gone through a blooming cycle. Now, autumn and winter are not the good times to do this, even with a tropical hibiscus. So I'll be waiting to trim mine down probably February or March, when we're starting to get warmer here in Southwest Florida. Remember, we get warmer a lot sooner than everybody else, y'all. So I will give my hibiscus a haircut then. I will be very careful to snip right above the bud and the leaves. Just snip it down. Got a little place, so if I got this much growth, I'm going to snip it down about 6 inches or so all around, and this is going to encourage it to branch out more and to grow more buds. Because hibiscus, the most important tip you'll ever learn, only bloom on new growth. I hope you've loved this video today. I hope you'll share it out with your friends and family. Make sure you subscribe so that you get all the videos when we post them every week. I love my tropical hibiscus. You know, I go to sleep in the morning and I wake up and there are these beautiful blooms. It doesn't get any better than that. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe down below. Click the little bell so you're notified when I upload new videos every week. Also, make sure you hop over to our blog at mycontainergardens.com. Have a great gardening week, everybody.